Okay, we're going to take a quick look if you're deploying an overhead paging system with an ATA19x-3PCC device. So this could be a ATA191-3PCC, ATA192-3PCC, a setting that you might need to adjust if you're running issues with the overhead paging system not shutting off after the call disconnects. If we take a look at the CPC durations I've listed here, you'll notice that the default ATA setting for the CPC value, the CPC duration value, is 0.5. So this is what the actual ATA itself has by default. However, if you onboard the ATA to WebEx calling, the default setting for the ATA on the WebEx calling service for the CPC duration is 0. So you might run into issues with certain overhead paging systems where they may not like the value of 0 for CPC duration. Typically the symptom is you make your overhead page, you go and shut the call down, and then either the overhead paging system never shuts down, it just keeps on. There's audio going through the paging system, it's not shut down, or it is a delayed shutdown of maybe 15 to 20 seconds. So if you're running into that issue, you definitely want to take a look at what recommendations the manufacturer of the overhead paging system has. As far as the CPC duration, what I found is often if you have an overhead paging system that is having the symptom, a 0.9 CPC value appears to be a sweet spot. However, as I mentioned a moment ago, you definitely want to check to see if the respective manufacturer of the overhead paging system has a very specific number in mind. The other item to keep in mind is what I'm showing you here is direct admin access into the 3PCC ATA. So we're under voice, under regional, and then there's the CPC duration setting right here. By default to 0.5. And if you onboard this to WebEx calling, it does get set to 0, which, as I mentioned, you might run into an issue with the overhead paging system. When you go in and end a page, the overhead paging system remains on, or there's a delay before it shuts down. Currently, WebEx ControlHub does not offer the user a CPC duration setting to be adjusted, so you would need to open up a TAC case if you need the CPC duration adjusted. Okay, we'll take a quick look at the admin guide regarding the CPC, the calling party control. Momentarily removes the voltage between the tip and ring signals, signaling that the calling party has hung up. This feature is useful for auto answering equipment. You can configure these settings in the control timer value section of the regional page, which I showed a moment ago. And then we'll go into the actual section. So generally speaking, it's the CPC duration that I've seen that may need to be adjusted at times. So far, the CPC delay has not been something that I found that needs to be adjusted, but you would want to check with the respective overhead paging manufacturers to see what their recommendations are. So in any case, looking at the CPC duration here on the bottom, duration in seconds for which the tip to ring voltage is removed after the caller hangs up. After that, the tip to ring voltage is restored and the dial tone applies if the attached equipment is still off hook. CPC is disabled if the value is set to 0. Range is 0 to 1, being 1 second. Resolution is 0.001 seconds. The default setting is 0.5. If you recall, I did talk about the default setting on the ATA being 0.5. However, if you onboard it to WebEx calling, the WebEx calling default setting that's pushed to the ATA is 0. So thus this feature is disabled, which may not work in some overhead paging systems. Again, the symptom would be either the overhead paging system never disconnects when you end a phone call doing the page, or there's a delayed responsive disconnect, 15-20 seconds, or it disconnects, but when it disconnects you can hear kind of a fast busy dial tone type of effect. So those will be some of the symptoms you may run across. Okay, we're going to take a quick look here at doing a test call to a Cisco ATA110F, which is acting as an overhead paging system. And we'll see exactly what the behavior is. So right now I have the default settings on the ATA19x-3PCC. And I'll go ahead and make a call right now. Okay, so went ahead and answered the call. Testing 1 2 3. So this would be the actual paging action right now, overhead paging. And I'm going to go ahead and end the call here, and it disconnects the call just fine. So this is with the value set to the CPC duration of 0.5. So this is the default setting, CPC duration 0.5. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do another test here in a few moments. I'm going to go ahead and change the CPC duration to 0. The CPC duration has been set to 0, which means CPC function is turned off. And I'm going to do another test call. Okay, testing. So it's picked up just fine. And at this point it would be paging, the overhead page would be occurring. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. Testing. Okay, so did you notice there after approximately 2.5-3 seconds we had that fast busy disconnect tone that came on? So this would be an issue because when you would complete the overhead page, that would be broadcast for a second or so. So the CPC duration value of 0 would not be appropriate for this deployment. The 0.5 CPC duration worked just fine. Let me try one other setting. So for this setting, we're going to try a CPC duration of 0.9. So let me go ahead and make a call. Testing. 1 2 3. Testing. Okay, so it picked up just fine. It's transmitting the overhead page, as you can see. Let me go ahead and disconnect the call. Testing. Okay, disconnect the call. Okay, and the paging system went back to idle. Okay, so with this test we just performed, we know the default value of 0.5 for the CPC duration works fine in this combination of the Cisco acting as an overhead paging system in conjunction with the ATA19x-3PCC. This would also apply to the ATA19x-3PCC. We know if the CPC value, the duration value, would be set to 0, then there would be a glitch at the very end. We would hear the fast busy type of dial, disconnect dial tone occur. So that would not be something you would want to have as a side effect. And then the other setting I tried was a CPC duration of 0.9. That also worked fine. The reason I am showing these three different combinations is the ATA19x-3PCC, ATA19x-3PCC, the default setting is 0.5 for the CPC duration. However, that default setting might be changed if the unit is registered to a specific SIP service. Example, if it's registered to WebEx calling, that setting actually gets set to 0, which obviously with this type of deployment, would cause the issue at the very end of a fast busy for about a second or so. So that would be something, if you have the situation, first you would want to find out for the respective overhead paging manufacturer. What do they recommend for the CPC setting? Often what I find is, if you run into the issue and if the manufacturer does not have a specific recommendation for the CPC duration, I typically find a good sweet spot to be CPC duration equals 0.9. If the manufacturer has a specific CPC duration, then you would want to definitely use the CPC duration, whatever that happens to be. With services such as WebEx calling, you don't have direct access to the ATA19x-3PCC. So either the 192, 191, 3PCC, you do not have direct access. Currently, WebEx Control Hub does not offer a CPC setting if you go into the device section. So in that case, you would need to open up a case with Cisco TAC for the CPC setting to be adjusted if you're running into issue. Typically what the symptom would be, often on many of the overhead paging systems, would not necessarily be the symptom I just showed here a moment ago, but generally it would be a symptom you go to hang up the call, and either the paging system simply does not hang up the call, it just stays connected, or there's a delay, 15 or 20 seconds. Typically those are the symptoms seen if there's an issue with the CPC setting. Thank you for viewing the video.